Carnegie had to run to the house. He knew he had to get there as soon as possible. He was shocked to see how quickly these accusers could kidnap people. He was only gone from Miss Abby for 5 minutes. How could they kidnap her so quickly? Not only that, but how did the police officers not see her be kidnapped? Surely they would have seen something. But there wasn't enough time for that. While certainly strange, Carnegie knew that he had no time that he could lose. Whoever these accusers are, they are clearly incredibly stealthy and good at what they do. And so with that in mind, Carnegie knew that he had to get that book. Within about 10 to 15 minutes, Carnegie had sprinted to his office where the book was located. It did leave him a little exhausted. He wasn't used to this running, so he quickly poured himself a glass of water and quickly gulped it down. He then headed into the library where he began to search for the book. Where had Miss Abby put it? Carnegie began to search each row. Luckily, it was not hard to find. Carnegie also noticed some other texts next to the book. One was an encyclopedia of the city Altiston. Another was a text of the basic economics of the city. Carnegie noticed that he hadn't read all these texts. Despite being the mayor, he hadn't familiarized himself with his own books. They were inherited from the previous mayor. Carnegie also remembered what had made him a unique first for Altiston. He was the first mayor of Altiston who wasn't originally from Altiston. He had moved here as a young man for job opportunities. He had brought his young wife with him. Both of them worked hard and gained the supposed respect of the community. There was, however, some division whenever Carnegie decided to run for mayor. Some of the traditionalists claimed that it was tradition that only people from Altiston should run for office, and so Carnegie shouldn't be mayor. Some of the more activist types claimed that someone not from Altiston cannot represent the people effectively, and so could not produce the needed change for the people of Altiston. Both groups found reasons why Carnegie shouldn't be their mayor. Despite this, the mayor surprisingly and overwhelmingly won the popular vote and became the mayor on his first try. Even stranger was the fact that many of his critics began to support him, despite their previous statements. Despite many of them claiming that a non-Altistonian was going too far into power, they all began to simultaneously support Carnegie. Carnegie hadn't taken much note of this, partially because he couldn't figure out why this had happened. Now, after Carnegie had found the book, he quickly grabbed it and headed out. He didn't care about anything at the time except to get his wife, daughter, and maid. As he walked outside, he noticed the change of weather. Dark clouds gathered around him. It seemed like a storm was brewing. Carnegie worried that it may begin to rain at any minute. This got further confirmed once he heard soft thunder in the distance. Carnegie also realized something as he walked towards the police station. There was another stipulation that the accusers had set. He had to give them the book, but he had to do another thing. He was to leave Altiston and never come back. This requirement stopped Carnegie. Maybe he shouldn't simply give him the book, he thought. He could just leave Altiston. How could he? This was his home. This was his family's home. We couldn't leave. As Carnegie saw the police office in the distance, he started to have second thoughts. He also began to feel the occasional raindrop on his shoulder. He was about to open the door into the police office before he stopped himself. Something was wrong. Carnegie didn't know what was wrong, but he suddenly knew something was wrong. He looked at the book in his hand. How could he just give away a book that he doesn't even know about, he thought. Surely there was a reason why these accusers would kill and kidnap for it. Carnegie stepped away and opened up the book. The words were this: the removal of those ones and the compliance of all. Carnegie closed the book. It had been a few minutes, and he had just finished the book. It was relatively short, only about 20 pages, but it was very concise and straightforward. Carnegie was shocked. It was mind-opening. It all made sense. He knew exactly who the murderers were. It was in this book. He knew why the paranoid man was so secretive. He understood it all. Carnegie sat back for a moment, taking in all the information. He was there for only a few minutes before someone opened the door to the police office right beside him. The person didn't seem to realize that Carnegie was sitting right next to the door for a moment. "Oh, Mayor Carnegie, what are you doing here? Are you okay?" asked the police officer. "I'm fine, officer. I was just going to deliver something," he said, pointing to the book. "Well, Mayor, I can take that from you," said the officer, stretching his hand forward. Carnegie looked at the hand, then at the book, then back to the officer. "No," he said. "No, I don't think I will." The officer stared at him. eyes searing to his soul. "No, Mayor, you will give the book to us." Carnegie stood up and walked backwards away from the officer. A dozen other officers opened the door and began to follow the first officer. Carnegie realized a brutal fact. The accusers were police officers. The officers were in on it. He kept walking backwards, away from the murderers. He hailed a taxi, and it quickly came to him. "Hey, Mayor Carnegie, what you need?" said the taxi driver. "Take me away from here, immediately." "I don't think that's gonna work, good mayor." "You should give me the book, though." Carnegie backed away, realizing that he too was in on it. Now there were many people slowly walking towards him, as if they were robots or zombies. Carnegie turned around and ran away, sprinting to any direction from these murderers. Unfortunately, the accusers were also fast. Carnegie ran to a house and began to knock on the door furiously. "Open up, please, open the door, let me in." In a moment, a young woman opened up the door. She looked tired and was wearing pajamas. "Oh, Mayor, what's wrong?" "Please let me in, ma'am, just for a moment." I don't think so. Sorry, Mayor. Could you give me that book, though?" the young woman said. Carnegie backed away, shocked. How was she in on it as well? Suddenly, all the doors of the neighborhood opened, and everyone exiled their houses. Men and women, mothers and fathers, children and adolescents. All of them began to slowly follow him. They called for Carnegie to give them the book. "Why don't you give us the book?" asked one. "It's okay, Mayor. You can trust us," said another. Carnegie's heart pounded. He recalled something from the book. All of Altiston was in on it. Every citizen was part of the accusers. The whole city was against him. Though through extensive planning, they planned a way for non-Alstonians to leave the city. They killed the only man who knew the truth, the man who had the book that exposed everyone. "Hello," called one voice. Carnegie looked behind him. It was the chief of the police department. "Oliver Carnegie," the chief began. "I'm so glad to see you at this time, that you will be exiled from this city. Oh, will I enjoy this moment." The chief then grabbed a baseball bat and swung. Within a moment, all Carnegie saw was black. He felt himself fall to the ground. He could remember anything past that. The accusers have captured him.